Everybody, welcome back to the Sunnydale Review. I'm Brian.
I'm Jillian.
Jillian, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a very interesting morning. For
Yes.
for anybody curious, we are recording today. This is the first video we're recording on November 7th, which for anybody watching this in recent history, the Associated Press just called which candidate won the presidential election. So it's been a bit of a crazy morning.
It has. It's been a lot.
Yes.
But we're here. We're ready. Get an alcoholic beverage to celebrate.
Or a non-alcoholic beverage if you are like me and you just hate alcohol.
Right. So let's get into talking about Fool for Love.
Yes.
It's originally aired November 14th, 2000. Was written by Douglas Petrie and directed by Nick. I'm gonna say Mark, but
Yeah, that seems right.
yeah. So it's Marck. So it's Mark, but with both potential consonants out in there.
Yep.
So we open on Buffy facing off against a 70s style vampire. Things seem to be going well. She's quipping and kicking butt. However, when she goes to deliver the finishing blow, he counters and stabs her in the stomach with her own stake, which is pretty horrifying, not gonna lie.
And pretty unusual for our heroine to
Yeah.
be stabbed, not only defeated by a vampire, but stabbed with her own stake.
Yeah, even worse. It's just in her like face. I'm just like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
the shock and everything. It's a lot.
It's like, did that just happen? That just happened. What the hell just happened?
So we come back after the credits to Buffy being stabbed. She punches the vampire, pulls the stake out, and flees. The vampire stops and disarms her. As he's about to probably lay the finishing blows on Buffy, Riley comes out of nowhere to tackle him. The next morning, Riley is patching Buffy up. He's worried since she refuses to see a real doctor. You know, kind of hard to explain how you got stabbed by a stake in the stomach.
Oh, I just ran into a fence.
Yeah, right. So I was practicing javelin with a wooden javelin, and took my eye off it, and things happen, I guess.
It ricocheted. Things just went horribly wrong. I don't.
Oh man. So yeah, Riley asks her about the night before, what happened, how did this happen? She's reluctant to admit that one vampire bested her. And he was like, yeah, like, it's fine. I'm sure there were a bunch of vampires. And she's like, there was one vampire. So Dawn bursts in to warn Buffy and Riley that moment's coming. Joyce asks if they are disinfecting something because there's like alcohol and, gauze and everything out. Dawn actually ends up covering for Buffy, saying that the alcohol is for removing nail polish. So, good on Dawn. Coming through.
She can be useful sometimes.
Yeah. The three agree that Dawn will help Buffy with household chores, and Riley will cover her Slayer duties while Buffy heals up. Buffy asks Riley to take the group along, so we cut to one of the best scenes ever.
Oh my god.
Riley is like full on initiative soldier, like stalking the graveyard, staying low, everything. And then it pans over to Anya, Willow, and Xander eating chips super loud in the background and asking Riley what he's doing. Like, what do you think he's doing? I don't know. I'll ask him, Riley, what are you doing? And he's just like,
Well, he's like running and like diving behind tombstones and all this stuff, and he keeps doing like all these like hand motions. And at one point, he goes to them and he goes like this, and they're like, "What do you think that means?" And I think Willow's like, "I think it translates to choo choo."
oh man.
And it's the loudest bag of chips. Not just like the bag, but the chips themselves are the loudest thing ever.
Yeah, so this isn't going great. We cut back to the magic box, where Buffy and Giles go over Watcher diaries to see if there's good documentation on the failure of past Slayers. something to help them understand what happened the other night. Giles says that the Watchers probably didn't have the heart to write about the death of the Slayers. This gives Buffy an idea to ask Spike what happened when he beat 2 Slayers himself. Which is a pretty smart idea. I mean, go to the primary source, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think often that they write down which vampire killed a Slayer.
Right.
Never mind, like, how to find that vampire. So she's like, well, we got Spike. I know that I can pay him off with money for information. And he does like to brag all the time about having killed 2 Slayers. So...
I mean, these should, though, right? They should at least say what happened. This not leaving it open-ended is just...
Yeah, but I mean, it might be that... at least it's possible that the Watchers don't always know what happened to the Slayer. Like, they know that she was killed. They don't necessarily know how or by whom or what demon. Like, unless there's, like, oh, okay, 2 bites on the side of the neck, that obviously means vampire attack. Yeah. But, like, you don't find out until they find the body. So... Right.
Oh, man. All right, so at the Bronze, Buffy and Spike hang out. She's offering him cash for information. Spike asks for wings in exchange for information. Like, wings is like, what? Like, spicy buffalo wings. Which is great. I like the idea that, you know, as a vampire, blood is what keeps them going, but they can still eat regular food.
Yeah.
It's fun. When...
We know that Spike loves the blooming onion.
Yes.
There's multiple references to it throughout the series, so...
Oh, man. When Buffy turns to ask the waitress for wings, she grimaces. Spike realizes that something got the best of her and taunts her about that. We flash back to Spike before he was Spike, London, 1880. He's a poet. He's asked about what he thinks about a recent strings of disappearances. One of the other guys takes his poem and reads it out loud to everybody. They laugh, which is very rude, very rude. They say that he's called William the Bloody because his bloody terrible poetry. This is different than why we heard he's called William the Bloody.
I mean, I don't blame them. It wasn't a good poem.
Yeah. One of them says he would rather have a railroad spike through his head than listen to his poetry. And then, this is just me, something tells me that Spike probably made good on that request in the future.
Probably.
Yeah, it just feels in character, right? You know?
Yeah.
He's come get petty revenge by doing exactly that.
Oh, for sure.
A woman, Cecilia, asks Spike if the poems are about her. He admits that they are. She isn't into him or the poems, and she does not let him down easily.
No.
William says, I only ask that you see me. And Cecilia says, that's the problem. I do see you. You're nothing to me, William. You're beneath me. It's like, whoa, Jesus Christ.
I mean, she's blunt.
Yeah,
I kind of have the feeling that, like, this has been, like, a ongoing thing between them where, like, she keeps trying to let him down and then he keeps coming back. She keeps trying to let him down. So she's like, I'm just gonna, like, no question here.
Yeah.
But is her name Cecilia or Cecily?
Oh, it might be Cecily. It's been a while since I watched this episode. All right, so every time I said Cecilia, that should have been Cecily. Anyways, so Spike leaves the party and bumps into Angel, Darla, and Drusilla on the street. He darts into an alley. Drusilla follows him. She seduces him with kind words and promises as long as something more. And then she bites him.
And when she bites him, like we've seen Angel become a vampire, and it was like very like he was seduced, but he was also super into it, and blah blah. With Spike, like Drusilla bites him, and he's like, "Ow, ow, ow."
Oh man. So
and she Oh, sorry. Drusilla definitely plays on the fact that he is hurt in that moment, and he doesn't seem to have a lot of luck with the ladies.
Yes, definitely
So,
that.
yeah.
So back in the present day, the Scoobies track down the vampire that stabbed Buffy. Riley takes point and follows the vampire into a mausoleum. There's a nest in there, so Riley says that there's too many and gets the gang to leave. Back at the Bronze, Spike continues to tell Buffy about his story. In 1880, Angel is angry with Spike because his actions have caused them to be driven underground. Angel thinks that Spike's reckless nature is going to lead to his death, if not by Angel, then by an angry mob, or the Slayer. So Spike didn't know about the Slayer until this moment. He learns about it, and he sought the Slayer out. Then back in present day, Spike says, if you're looking for good fun, there's death, there's glory, and there's sod all else. So he saw this as a, moment to get glory or die, and it doesn't seem like he was quite, caring which way that ended up.
Nah.
Spike says the vampires have an advantage over Slayers. Slayers always have to reach for their weapons, whereas their fangs are always on them, which is a good point.
Yeah.
So we flash back to Spike fighting a Chinese Slayer during the Boxer Rebellion. She's extremely skilled, and while Spike is just very brutish in his fighting style, she is about to slay him, but an explosion prevents it and knocks her back. Spike takes advantage of this and kills her. So Drusilla is very impressed with this, and they end up having sex in the burning building. It's just, risky, but yes, Spike and Drusilla.
Yeah.
What can you expect? So they tell Darla and Angel seems kind of panicked about this. The four of them have a cool slow motion walk amongst the flames and amongst the flaming streets. Buffy
a shot they will use over and over and over again through the series, but it's very
a cool
bad
shot.
looking.
Yeah,
it really is.
So Buffy's disgusted by the fact that he got off on killing the Slayer. He says that she's at a distinct disadvantage because she can kill hundreds of them, but they'll keep coming, whereas all they need to do is have one of them have one good day to kill her. He also says that she's gotten so good she thinks she's immortal. Elsewhere, Riley goes back to the cemetery. He kills the vampire that stabbed Buffy and blows up the rest with a grenade. Just very, not overkill, but just all right, damn. But I also get it. I mean, the vampire stabbed Buffy.
Yeah.
They have to die a very violent death.
Plus, Riley isn't exactly superpowered like he was before.
True,
he still has
yeah.
the training from the initiative and all that, but he doesn't quite have the strength that he used to since they fixed him. So
yeah, I can see one vampire. I can see Riley taken down, but that whole nest he wouldn't have had a chance without the grenade.
Yeah.
So Buffy and Spike continue their conversation in the alley outside the Bronze. They spar and talk. As they spar, there's a cool match cut back to Spike fighting the second Slayer he killed in New York in 1977. This is probably one of my favorite, It's probably one of my favorite scenes or moments in the whole show. The match
it's so cool.
between it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's fighting the Slayer on a train car. Spike says that for a Slayer, death is always chasing them. Every day could be their last. Spike, quote, part of you wants it, not only to stop the fear and uncertainty, but because you're just a little bit in love with it. Death is your art. You make it with your hands, day after day. The final gasp, that look of peace. Part of you is desperate to know what it's like. Where does it lead you? Every Slayer has a death wish, even you. And then he ended up taking his coat that he wears from this Slayer after he killed her, which I thought was an interesting touch.
Yeah, one thing to mention here is that so he kills the Slayer in 1977 by snapping her neck. He doesn't bite her, and from what I've kind of read throughout the years in the community, that's seen as a sign of disrespect.
Oh.
When a vampire kills a Slayer and doesn't bite her and drink her blood, because the blood of the Slayer is supposed to be like an aphrodisiac. It's supposed to be like the mecca of blood when it comes to, you know, regular people versus the Slayer. So him just like snapping her neck is supposed to be a sign of disrespect. And this is where I was also saying earlier, like, her watcher probably has no idea what happened to her. He just knows that her body was found with her neck snapped on a train.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good
there
point.
were no witnesses there. Like, there's no markings on her body to say that this is what happened. So
Yeah, I mean, we saw what it did for Angel. You know, last season. So hard to tell with how we record, but a while ago, 2 seasons ago,
yeah.
and how it saved him from that poison. So, yeah, Slayer blood is, it's interesting. I never really thought about that for this scene, but yeah, that's a good point. All right, so he says the only reason Buffy has lasted so long is her ties to the world. When she's ready to die, basically, he'll be there. She says that he's beneath her, and if she ever had a death wish, she would never let him grant it. She tosses the cash at him and leaves. Spike returns to his place. He takes a shotgun, intending to shoot her with it. Harmony doesn't think Spike can take her in his current state, because what he said, echoing that other, was it Sicily?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Echoing her words really like fucked him up. He's a mess.
Yep.
He thinks that he can push through the pain just to kill her. Harmony thinks if he wanted to kill her, he would have when he didn't have the chip in.
He tried. He tried many times.
Yeah. We flash back to Drusilla and him having a similar argument after they left Sunnydale. We also get to see this demon that she left Spike for, which is like a very tall demon with deer antlers and slime all over him. But he seems like a nice guy, right?
For some reason, every time I see it, I think that he's like part moose, because he's got the antlers and he's like dripping something. And for some reason, I have it in my head that he's dripping maple syrup. I don't know why.
I love it. He's a Maine demon.
Yes.
Or Vermont, like. That's hilarious. But he seems nice. He didn't know that Drusilla was dating someone. He's very awkward for him. So Drusilla thinks that Spike's become engulfed by the thought of Buffy, and that's what's pushed her away from him. Back at Buffy's place, Joyce is packing up to do an overnight observation at the hospital, to do a CAT scan to look into potential cancer. She tells Buffy that everything will be fun. She tells Buffy that everything will be fine. Buffy goes to the backyard to cry. Spike comes out of the shadow and she sees that she's crying. He goes from angry to sympathetic and asks what's wrong. He asks if there's anything that he can do to help. She doesn't answer, but the pair sit with each other on the back steps and the episode ends. So, that is Fool for Love. Jillian, your thoughts?
It's actually like a really sweet scene at the end, because he goes there. I mean, the fact that he goes there to kill her is not sweet. But, like, he sees her there crying, and she's like, "Just go away, Spike. Like, I just want to be alone right now." But he's sitting there asking, like, you know, what's wrong, and she won't tell him anything. But she lets him like sit next to her, and then he like takes his hand out and starts like very sweetly patting her on the back, and it's just like, I kind of love it.
Yeah. It's a good scene.
But yeah, episode as a whole, I really like this episode. I think that the editing is really cool. In that scene where they're flipping back and forth between like Spike sparring with Buffy and then Spike fighting the 1977 vampire using exactly the same moves. It's literally like a mirror, and they just keep flipping in the 1977 Slayer and Buffy. So I just think it's really cool. It's really cool to be able to see kind of Spike's origin story. And even Buffy's whole idea of like, well, I want to know more about how the Slayers died so that I can understand my power more. Why don't I go and talk to the only vampire that we know who's ever killed two of them?
Right.
So yeah, I really like this episode. It's one of my favorite ones, at least in the season. It is one that I will revisit for fun. So I'd probably give it like a 9.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. 9, truly one of my favorite episodes in the series. It's so good.
Yeah.
So good. All right, on to season 5, episode 8, Shadow. Originally aired November 21st, 2000, written by David Fury and directed by Dave Addis. We open on Joyce getting her CAT scan done. Buffy and Dawn are waiting in the lobby, both clearly worried. We cut to the magic box where Giles and Tara go over his new slogan and his new ad. I mean, it's so like funny now to look back on it, but ads in what is it, phone books is probably pretty important back then.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, not much now. Amazon has ruined it all.
I can't remember the last time I saw a phone book, honestly.
Oh, man. So Xander, Willow, and Anya enter, angry at Riley for going rogue and killing all the vampires without them. Giles says it is reckless, but they should be happy that they missed out on the confrontation. Which is a fair point. So they're working to figure out what Glory is. And then we cut to Glory, who's living in luxury. One of her minions has a scroll for her. And the scroll is a spell that she's intending to do. But she just needs to pick up some items, and she sees an ad for the magic box.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. So Riley arrives at the Summers with the door ajar. Spike is in Buffy's room sniffing her clothes. Oh, boy. Riley confronts him, and Spike tries to play it off to no avail, saying, like, it's a predator thing. It's not weird. You gotta know your enemy. Oh, man. So Spike ribs Riley about Buffy buying him drinks last night. Riley doesn't believe him, but Spike counters that by asking why he never gets taken off the vampire list when she does the spell to prevent people from coming in. Which is a good point, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he's proven to be helpful on a couple of occasions.
When she pays him. Well, yeah, I mean, it is a good point. They've done it twice since Spike has been invited in, and neither time did they kick Spike out, so... Yeah,
I don't know if maybe they did it another time after the Harmony thing.
I
mean, it should have.
Right. Yeah. I thought he said twice, but he may not have. I don't know. We'll have to... Someone in the comments or something will know for sure. I'm sure. So Riley also roasts Spike. Okay, so Riley tosses Spike out the door and lets him roast for like a few seconds before throwing him the blanket so he can walk in the sun. Spike tells Riley that Buffy is at the hospital in surprise that she didn't know. Riley goes to the hospital. And he waits with Dawn in the waiting room while Buffy talks to Joyce. Joyce says that they need to do a biopsy because they saw a shadow on her CAT scan. So that's scary. Not comforting at all.
No.
But they try to comfort each other with like the unspokenness of like this could potentially get very bad. Mm-hmm. At the magic box, Tara posits that maybe Glory is something so old that the books may not cover her. They figure that the Dagon spear being so old points to her being super old, which makes sense,
Yeah.
Glory shows up and buys what she needs for the spell. Obviously, nobody knows that it's Glory. And as she leaves, Giles is like, she could be anywhere.
She could have been here 5 seconds ago. We wouldn't know it. It's like, yeah, you didn't.
Oh, man. Back at the hospital, Riley covers Dawn with his coat as she sleeps on a chair. A doctor
Captain America.
He really is. A doctor comes out to tell Buffy that Joyce has a brain tumor. And things may progress quickly. The symptoms are pretty terrible. They need to figure out if it's operable. He says that she has a chance to live, and it's nearly a 1 in 3 chance. Great.
No.
Yeah. So Ben comes in to tell the doctor that he's needed in the ICU. He tells Buffy that he only said that because she seemed pretty overwhelmed. And that he has pretty, bad bedside manners, but he is a very good doctor. Buffy says that she needs to find a spell to heal her mom. Riley thinks it will work out, but understands why. Riley thinks that it won't work, but understands why she needs to try to look for something. At the magic box, Anya is looking at the receipts and is worried about what Giles said Glory. Did I miss something here? How did she know that it was Glory? Gosh.
No, so she's looking through the receipts and she's like, hey,
Oh, yeah.
hey, like,
Right.
you sold these two things together. These two things should never be sold together.
Yes.
Like, the only time they're sold together and they're used together is for something bad, and you shouldn't have done this, and blah, blah, blah. I think Giles is like, let's remember who owns the store, who is the owner, and who is the employee for just a second here. But I think they kind of put 2 and 2 together on, what was sold and what they're used for, and figure out that it was Glory who came in and bought them.
He says, it's okay because the woman that he sold it to would have to be enormously powerful to perform the spell. And there's a moment of silence, and I'm like, oh. And they realize that was Glory.
That's a bloody hell moment.
Yeah. Riley took Dawn to a carousel to get ice cream. Dawn tells him about when they moved to Sunnydale and her mom rented out the carousel for her birthday. But since she didn't have any friends, just her, Buffy, and her mom rode it over and over. Yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing because it's this probably does matter to Dawn, but as an audience, we're like, this wasn't real,
Yeah, and also just that carousel music must have gotten really old really fast if you're just riding it over and over and over again. Also, do they bother stopping it after a couple of minutes, or do you just keep going around?
Just for an hour straight.
Oh my god.
So Dawn tells her that his relationship with Buffy is a lot more chill than hers with Angel. She doesn't get so worked up about things with him.
Which he kind of takes as she doesn't care.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he definitely does. Buffy is meeting with the Scoobies, and they warn her that there are nurse spells that can help her mother, and it will only really make things worse if they botch it. Doesn't really get in with medical science or anything.
Nope.
Anya says they don't need to do more things wrong for the day. Buffy catches on and she's like, what are you guys talking about? They all try to hide it, but yeah.
Yeah, Buffy's like, what did I miss? What else can be added to my plate right now?
They explain that the cult that made the amulet they sold to Glory has power to turn a cobra into a monster. So Buffy goes to find Glory, who is at the zoo. First time we've seen this since way back in season 1. But it's nice to remember that it exists. So Glory steals the cobra out of a display and changes it into a giant cobra. It's funny. So Buffy jumps her while she's doing the spell, and Glory's she recovers. She's just more that was rude.
For some reason, this scene always reminds me of the zoo scene from Harry Potter. When he's talking to the snake in the first one. I don't know why. It just reminds me of that. And yeah.
So she's able to beat Buffy back while her minion continues the spell. And the cobra is now a giant cobra with arms. Glory sends it to find the key. She does this whole incantation thing of poem of what to search. And the cobra's just standing there. And she's like, now. Which made me laugh so hard. Glory makes me laugh so much. She's just she's so great. Good villain. Really good villain, I think.
Here endeth the instructions. Please go.
Yeah. Oh, man. So Riley comes back to the magic box, and he's upset that Buffy left on her own. Xander reminds him that Riley did the same thing just that morning. I guess the night before. Buffy calls Giles from the hospital. Um, tells him that the thing Glory created, Buffy tells Giles that the thing that Glory created was a big snake, though not Mayor Big, and it's loose. And she also says that Dawn is on her way over to the magic box.
By herself, because that's
By
just
herself.
okay.
Yeah. So Buffy waits at the hospital while Dawn is at the magic box and Riley is at the bar where he's approached by a lady vampire. Joyce gets very bad news. Riley gets bit by the vampire, but only for a moment before staking her. And the vampire is Sandy, who was sired by Vampire Willow, which is a very fun little thing that I thought was really cool that they did. I don't know, makes the world feel more alive when they bring stuff like that back around.
I mean, because that would have been in season 2? When
Two or
was
three?
Hold on.
Season 3, because it was after Cordelia and Xander broke up.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Cobra, meanwhile, is tracking Dawn down, first going to the carousel to pick up her scent. Buffy goes back to the magic box. The Cobra comes soon after. It sees Dawn and slithers away. Buffy chases after it. Giles picks her up in his car to make the chase faster. Gloria is upset that the snake is taking too long. Buffy bails from the car to chase it into a field. She catches up to it and grabs a chain, strangling the Cobra with it. It plays dead for a moment. But then it comes back alive. Buffy ends up punching it straight through the thing's face. So damn. The camera pans up, revealing it was nearly back to Glory. Back at the hospital, Joyce tells Buffy she needs to tell Dawn the truth of what's going on. Riley arrives in a turtleneck, of course. He asks Buffy if she's okay. She says physically yes, but not emotionally. He holds her. She says that she can't be weak because if she starts, she won't be able to stop being weak. She goes back into Joyce's hospital room, leaving Riley alone in the waiting room, and the episode ends. What did you think?
I don't like this episode. There's a lot of very heavy stuff starting, and the whole Buffy's mom's diagnosis, or not necessarily diagnosis. Yes, they diagnose her with a brain tumor. They don't know if it's operable. She might die. Blah blah blah. And then giant snake. I'm just not super into. So I'm gonna go with a 5.
5. Damn, it's brutal. I said a 7. I said. Oh, sorry. You say.
I mean, it's used to progress Joyce's illness. I get that. It's used to progress the whole Riley and Buffy drifting apart thing. I get that. But it's just it's not one that I feel the need to revisit ever.
I understand. So I said it's a good episode. I rated it a 7. It has a lot of important plot stuff, but the episode itself is really slow. Yeah. But yeah, so that's that episode, and that is our episode for this podcast episode. Saying episode so often. But yeah, Jill, anything you want to add before we get on out of here?
So the next episode, we're going to be talking about Listening to Fear and Into the Woods. Again, these are very Joyce sickness episodes. So yeah, just be prepared for that. The season does get better later, and then worse, and then better, and yeah, this is a very up and down season. And the biggest villain of this episode is just kind of life in general, which is weird to say. We can talk about it more when we get to the end of the season, definitely, but it's just yeah, this is not one of my favorite seasons of the show. We'll say it like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, but if you want to hit me up on Twitter, you can. I'm at Jillian_Swan. That's Swan with 2 N's. I don't check Twitter very often, almost never. So if you send me something on there, please do not be offended if I do not get back to you right away. I do occasionally check. Brian can attest to the fact that he sent me something and it was like 3 weeks later before I noticed it.
Yes.
But
I
yeah,
send all my Buffy memes through other messaging services, not Twitter.
no. But yeah, but if you guys want to hit me up on there, you can.
Oh man. So yeah, you know where to find her. It's on the screen. You can follow me on Twitter at @theFakeBMar. That's BMARR. You can follow the channel on Twitter at WGEverything, on Instagram at WickedGoodEverything, on Twitch at twitch.tv/WickedGoodEverything. If you want to follow me on my personal Instagram, it's at SuperMarbro, also 2 R's. And other than that, please tell your friends and your enemies about the Sunnydale Review. And we'll see you in the next one. The Sunnydale Review is a Wicked Good Everything production. Fan art of Buffy was created by Fishbone Art. The logo was created by Tamar Kutab. The original intro and outro song was created by Alex Carl.